1930s. We have no idea what we're walking into, but we need to figure out where is this septic system for this particular house and what condition is it in. As we can see up in the sky, we're looking to get some nasty weather, so we have to move as fast as we can to find where this thing is, what does it look like, and does it work? That's the most important question. So let's do a walk around real quick, see if we can find where the septic might be. If it's not obvious where the septic is, like it is here, I've done a whole loop, didn't see it at first. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk to the well to figure out where that's at. Once we identify where the well's hiding, we know that we have to look on the opposite end of the property, and that's a pretty good idea of where the septic's going to be hiding. I don't know about your state, but in our state, the septics always have to be about 100 foot from the well. Obviously, if you have an older house, it's going to be a little bit closer, you know, 50s and 40s and stuff like that. 50 foot was your distance, 60s, 70s, 80s, mid 80s, 75 foot. From the mid 80s to now, 100 foot across the board. So a lot of times, if you find the well, you go to the other end of the property, you're probably going to be able to find the septic. So now we've worked our way to the opposite end, and we got to look at the ground, see if we get lucky. So this one was a little bit harder to see, but I did see this little white pipe and handle. So that means our tank lid is right here. Alternatively, we also found one right here. The style of tank in this time period would have been metal or cinder block. Because we see these two PVC pipes and concrete lids, this thing's probably been installed somewhere from the 90s to now. So we have to get our shovel, clean off that little bit of dirt, open them up, and see what we find. So let's go ahead and do that real fast. All right, we have the tank exposed. We can see here that we have our lid on the rear and our lid on the front. So now all we got to do, get the hook, pull them off, and we can actually see inside of this tank. So the hook we're using is a TNT Tools hook. We just go ahead and grab that latch and yank it right on off of the tank. Beautiful PVC back baffle. And we're going to do the same thing to the front. It's important whenever you have a two-chamber tank like this, like you get to both sides. Well, that's unlucky. So what just happened there was the hook came off. That's why I'm not a big fan of burying these things, because the water sits in there and rots out the metal. So all you gotta do, there's a little lip right on the edge of the lid. You just grab it, pull that bad boy back, and you're back in business. Now that the lids are off, what we have to discuss is what do these pieces do and what should we be looking for? We're gonna start at the front of the tank. We can see here, this is our inlet baffle. So the water from the house will flow through that pipe and into here. The purpose of this baffle is to keep the water that's coming in from stirring up the pot, causing the solids to be pulled out of suspension and making more debris go to your drain field. So this is one of your primary clogging points, which is why it's much larger than the outlet side. The outlet side, same concept, smaller pipe. So the purpose of this baffle is to keep all that floating debris that we see here from getting into the pipe and causing a clog on the back end or in the drain field. It's incredibly important that every time you get your system pumped, that you look, are the baffles still in place? Now, this should be a two-chamber tank, meaning there's going to be a wall in the middle of the system. The wall for this particular system is going to be right about here. Typically, they're 1,500 gallons, so 1,000 up front, 500 in the back. Just about every new install nowadays is going to have a 1,500 gallon two-chamber septic system. Very common. The purpose of this style of tank is to help clarify the liquid so you get less debris going to your drain fields, meaning you should get a lot longer lifespan out of the system in general. The cost difference between a single chamber tank and a two-chamber tank, negligible. State code nowadays requires them, so if you're having to replace your tank, doesn't matter if you want one or not, you're getting one. Whenever you get your septic system pumped, especially if you have a two-chamber tank, they have to do both sides, otherwise it defeats the purpose. The purpose of it, like I said a moment ago, is to clarify liquids. So the front portion of the tank is going to capture the majority of debris. The rear part of the tank is going to clarify whatever debris happens to make it out of the first portion. If you're only pumping the front, guess what? You're not helping get rid of the debris from the second chamber, meaning the little bit of debris from the first that gets into the second chamber after it's been pumped, eventually that debris is going to start working its way to your drain fields. Typically, an average family of 4 will pump anywhere between 3 and 5 years on average, right? If you're highly productive, you're going to have to do it a little bit more often. If you don't live at the house that often, maybe it's your summer home or whatever, you're going to do it a little bit less. Very important though, when you get it pumped, they look, are those baffles still there? The reason why it's so important is they're cheap and sometimes they fall off. In this particular circumstance, they're PVC. They're not going anywhere. But if, for example, that lid fell in, snapped it right off, guess what? Now you gotta fix the lid and the baffle. Typically, we recommend safety lids just in case the top lid, like we saw where the hook breaks. Safety lid would keep that big lid from going in or a person from going in. Unfortunately, they didn't want to put one of those on this one, so we're gonna make that recommendation. Now that we have the lid open, we need to look, what do the pipes look like? So the next step I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my camera. We're gonna run the camera through the lines to figure out where the distribution box is, where the drain fields are, and then we're gonna start running some water into the system to make sure everything's draining as it ought to. So we've gone ahead and used the camera, we've identified where the distribution box is, and fortunately it's not terribly deep. So now what we have to do is get it dug up. When we're looking for the box, all we used was our camera. We tossed it into the outlet line, and we can see here that we're in the box. The benefit of using this camera is that the locating wand will give me exactly where I'm at plus the depth. So how I check my math is I go ahead and put a probe, and we know that we're hitting it. So now we're gonna take these flags, mark out where it's at, get it dug up, and we'll be able to find out exactly where the drain fields are so we can draw these people a perfect map so they know exactly where not to put that pesky pool. So I'm gonna mark out this distribution box, and all I'm doing is I'm taking this probe and I'm hitting all 4 edges, marking them with the flags, getting it dug up. Once I get it dug up, because it's gonna be pretty boring, we're gonna run you through where are the drain fields, what do they look like, and maybe we'll be able to guess when this thing was put in. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Now I've got the box open. It got a little bit toasty, so I had to take off the sweatshirt. It'll eventually come back on because, you know, it's that time of year. So the box wasn't terribly deep, and if we look, we can see that it's this little square right here. So what'll happen, the water will come into the tank, clarify. From the tank, there'll be a pipe that goes to right here. Now, we see a white PVC pipe right in the middle. You may be wondering to yourself, what on earth does that mean, and what does that have to do with anything septic related? Good question. Remember why we're here. We're here to try and identify where are things, how does it look, and can we guess at roughly how old this system is? So we know we got a 2-chamber tank, so minimum 1990s. The style of lid that's in there, probably closer to 2000s, but we have a distribution box with a PVC observation port. That was not standard practice until 2010 plus in Maryland. So some knucklehead didn't put it up to grade like they ought to. You're supposed to put it above the surface so you can get to the stupid thing, but they didn't do that. Okay, no big deal. We still found the box, but because we see that pipe on there, that's making us think that maybe this thing's from 2010. The next step is to get the hook, open this box, and we're gonna do the same thing we did to find the box with the camera, where we're gonna actually locate out where the drain field goes, because you have to know where it terminates. The distribution box is the only way to get the camera into the drain fields to figure out where it goes. In this particular circumstance, the box is not terribly deep, so we could dig it by hand. There are some times where the county might force you to hire an excavator, get that thing dug up, and then scope the lines. This is not as expensive as having an excavator. The moment you get an excavator on site, immediately starting price is 1K plus. So most homeowners try their best to avoid it, or really make sure that whoever installs the system does a good job detailing where stuff is. Modern conventions and modern codes will usually force you to be 18 inches or more below the surface. They usually don't let you go beyond 36 inches. So a modern septic system should be within hand digging range. You should be able to get to it with a shovel. 18 to 36 inches is not terrible, but some of these older houses from the 60s or 70s, it could be 11 feet down. You're not doing that by hand. Or I guess you could, but you'd be there for 4 weeks. So most companies will have to bring an excavator in order to find where stuff goes. The next step, we're gonna grab that hook, pop that bad boy open, see where things go. So this one ended up being something I was not expecting. As we can see inside of here, we have our distribution box. We see that this lid is much larger than it typically is, and we see how much degradation is inside of this box. Usually when you start seeing this, that's telling me something was installed in the 90s, but that lid's not normal. It's a lot larger, so what I'm kind of thinking might have happened, since the driveway is close by, the lid might have collapsed and they might have installed this new lid relatively recently. The really goofy part though is the absorption system is terracotta tile fields. 100% has not been done since the 70s in this area. So what I think might have happened was the tank might have been made of cinder block or metal, collapsed or got reported or replaced, whatever. They replaced it with a tank, a normal tank, and I guess they had to redo the distribution box because of where the tank ended up having to go. When I ran the camera through the sewer line, I noticed that there are 2 front lines, meaning you got 2 lines exiting the home. The one on the left is new PVC, the one on the right is old cast iron. So what I think happened was they might have gut renovated this house and put an addition on at some point, which would mean that's when they did the tank. We don't have any paperwork from the county, so this is all speculation, but the big problem we have is some of those tile fields completely collapsed. So we had one, didn't even get into the field, completely collapsed, full of water. The other one was only 10 foot of tile field, collapse. The issue with terracotta pipe is it's clay pipe. It's very fragile. So if you put an excessive weight on it, let's just say you hit it with like something like a fence post, guess what? You're gonna go right through it. The tricky part for this particular property is the driveway. I think what might have happened was because this tank was buried, or the lids were buried, it's very possible that whenever, you know, we're on a farm, whenever people are doing farm stuff, whether it's driving a truck, tractor, or whatever, they may not have known where the septic was, and that probably led to our collapse issue that we're dealing with now. Unfortunately, that's a problem. So we've identified the tank looks fine, distribution box looks okay, but we have an issue with the drain lines. So now it kind of comes down to the county. The county can go one of 2 ways. They either let you redo the tile fields with PVC pipe, or they make you re-perk the property and install new drain fields. So the next step is to talk with the county, see what they want to do, and then talk back with the homeowner to give them some options. Unfortunately for the rest of this video, we're not going to know that answer for about 6 months. It's going to be a process. But where we're at right now, this is why it's important that you have these things inspected when you're buying the house or you're putting on an addition, so that way you know when you're going to have a problem and roughly how much it's going to cost. This particular process is good because they are looking to install a pool, so you got to know where stuff is before you slap a pool on top of the tank. Unfortunately, with the drain field issues, I don't know if that pool's going to happen, but I'll update you as soon as I know. Hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you found this informative. And if you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I have videos posted every day on the world of well and septic, and I look forward to talking to you all later.